House Bill number 6002, an act concerning absentee voting and the reporting of results at the 2020 state election and election day registration.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure to recognize Senator May Flexer, and I just wanted to take a point of personal privilege on behalf of Governor Lamont and myself, just say how nice it is to see you back in the chamber and congratulate you on the birth of your lovely new daughter, Rose. So I know we don't have a lot of us in here, but a round of applause for the new addition to our state. Senator Flexer.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you very much for those kind words. I really appreciate that. Madam President, I move for passage of the emergency certified bill in concurrence with the House.
And the question is on adoption. Will you remark?
Yes, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President. I'm really pleased that we're here this morning to talk about and act on this important piece of legislation. And in concurrence with your kind words just a moment ago, I would be remiss if I didn't, as I thought about this bill, think about how difficult it was to come here today, frankly. And I think, you know, for a lot of us, it's a nerve-wracking time, this period of dealing with the pandemic and the reality that we now live in, especially for those of us who are directly responsible for caring for the most vulnerable. And those of us that get to serve as state senators are among the most privileged. We've been able to continue to do our work from home. This is the first time most of us have been required to be here in this building at all. And I have deep gratitude for our essential workers who have been on the front lines, whether that's in our healthcare industry or in food service or in delivery service or so many other things that have been essential to keeping our state moving over the last several months. Their dedication to their vocation should be commended, and we are all owe them a debt of gratitude for the great work that they do in their various fields in helping our state through this crisis as it continues. But today was really difficult to get up and to come here and to leave my daughter for the first time, and it's weird to even use that phrase, here on the Senate floor. And that really informs, that fear, that concern informs why we're here acting on this legislation today. That fear that I had this morning of coming here and leaving my newborn baby for the first time is also a fear that many residents of Connecticut have when it comes to participating in our elections in August and November of this year. We are all privileged to serve as state senators. It's a tremendous honor that we get. And I know that each and every one of us, despite the trepidation we might have had about coming here today and how this was all going to work logistically and how we were going to do whatever was necessary to keep ourselves and each other safe, we knew that we had an obligation because of the great honor that's been bestowed on us from our districts. And that's the way that Connecticut voters feel about exercising their right to vote. They know that that is the most important duty that they have as American citizens. And while we were able to come in here today and feel comfortable and reasonably safe that great precautions have been taken through the great work of our leaders and the tremendous staff that's been thinking about this for weeks and months to make sure this was a safe environment, make sure that the same thing is available to all of our voters here in Connecticut. And that's what this legislation before us is going to do. It's going to make sure that voters will not have to choose between the health and the safety of themselves or their families and exercising that most important right of every American, the right to vote. This legislation recognizes the unique moment that we are in and allows for voters to make a choice as to how they will participate in the August election and in the November election of this year, recognizing the unique circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I was very happy to see that this legislation passed the House with such broad support, expanding Ways to vote is something that has been debated here quite a bit over the last couple of years, and there's a lot of varied opinions. But this year, it seems like there's a lot of consensus that for this moment, making this option for people to vote by absentee ballot in the midst of a pandemic is the way to go. And I'm really grateful that we have this legislation before us, and that hopefully it will win broad support here in the state Senate, similar to what it did in the House of Representatives. Madam President, I would like to thank the leaders here in the Senate, particularly our leaders on the Democratic side, Senator Looney and Senator Duff, for their great work on this legislation, and Senator Fasano for his continued work on this, and wish Senator Fasano well as he's chosen not to run for re-election next year. And I know this is not the time to get into that too much, but thank you for your great work in this chamber all these years, and thank you for your work on this today. I want to thank my co-chair in the House of Representatives, Representative Fox, for his work on this legislation. And I know that Senator Sampson will have some thoughts and questions to share with this legislation, but I'm hopeful that the legislation before us, again, will win broad support, since it is something that is unique to this year and this year's circumstances, and recognizes that the overwhelming majority of Connecticut voters want to be able to exercise their right to vote this year without fear for their health and their safety. And the way to allow for that to happen is to support this legislation. So I'm hopeful that this legislation will win broad bipartisan support today. And Madam President, I thank you for the opportunity to speak on it.
Thank you so much, Senator